Paul's trials before Felix, Festus, and Agrippa. 5 days after Paul was escorted to Caesarea, Ananias, the high priest, arrived with some of the Jewish elders and the lawyer Tertullus to present their case. Tertullus presented the charges against Paul. He began by making flattering remarks about Governor Felix. Then he went on to claim, Paul is a troublemaker who is constantly stirring up riots among the Jews everywhere. He is a ringleader of the cult known as the Nazarenes. He was trying to desecrate the temple when we arrested him. The other Jews agreed with everything Tertullus said. The governor then motioned for Paul to speak. Paul said, I arrived in Jerusalem no more than 12 days ago, but my accusers never found me arguing with anyone, anywhere. I admit that I follow the way, which they call a cult. My accusers saw me in the temple as I was completing a purification ceremony. There was no crowd around me and no rioting. I am on trial before you today because I believe in the resurrection of the dead. At that point Felix, who was familiar with the way, adjourned the hearing and said, Wait until Lysias, the garrison commander, arrives. Then I will decide the case. Paul was kept in custody but given freedom to allow his friends to visit him. A few days later Felix and his wife, Drusilla, who was Jewish, sent for Paul. They listened as he told them about faith in Jesus Christ. As Paul spoke about righteousness, self-control, and the coming day of judgment, Felix became frightened. Go away for now, he replied. When it is more convenient, I'll call for you again. Felix hoped that Paul would bribe him to get released, so he talked with him quite often. Felix, who also wanted to be popular with Paul's accusers, kept him in prison for the next 2 years. Sometime later when Porcius Festus took over as governor from Felix, the Jewish authorities asked for Paul to be put on trial in Jerusalem, hoping to ambush and kill him on the way. Festus instead agreed to a new trial in Caesarea. Paul denied the charges, saying, I am not guilty of any crime against the Jewish laws, the temple or the Roman government. Now Festus, wanting to please the Jews, asked him, Are you willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there? No. Paul replied. This is the official Roman court, so I ought to be tried here. You know I am not guilty. If I have done something worthy of death, I should die. But if I am innocent, no one has a right to turn me over to these men to kill me. I appeal to Caesar. Festus conferred with his advisers and then replied, Very well. You have appealed to Caesar, and to Caesar you will go. A few days later King Agrippa arrived with his sister Bernice to pay their respects to Festus. They discussed Paul's case together. I'd like to hear the man myself, Agrippa said. Festus replied, You will meet him tomorrow. The next day Agrippa and Bernice arrived accompanied by military officers and prominent men of the city. Paul was brought in and Festus announced, This is the man whose death is demanded by all the Jews, but in my opinion he has done nothing to deserve death. However, since he appealed his case to the emperor, I have decided to send him to Rome. But what charge shall I make against him? Paul stood up and told them how he had encountered Jesus on the road to Damascus and become a Christian. Suddenly, Festus shouted, Paul, you are insane. Too much study has made you crazy. Paul replied, I am not insane, most excellent Festus. What I am saying is the truth. King Agrippa knows about these things. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do. Agrippa interrupted him. Do you think you can persuade me to become a Christian so quickly? Paul replied, Whether quickly or not, I pray to God that both you and everyone here in this audience might become the same as I am, except for these chains. Then the king, the governor, Bernice, and all the others stood and left. As they went out, they agreed, This man hasn't done anything to deserve death or imprisonment. Agrippa said to Festus, he could have been set free if he hadn't appealed to Caesar. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Share and leave a comment. Subscribe.